Okay, one of the cool new effects that came out with the new 2.1 version of the CorOs is the reverse delay. And I have to admit, this is an effect I've not used a lot previously, so it's been fun for me to kind of get to know it on the quad CORTEX and learn about it. So I've got this preset here that I was using for testing out the new Kraken, and I figured we can use this for our kind of our test preset. So let me turn off the reverb. Let's add in we'll just do the regular reverse delay, not the dual one for now. So let's look at the settings here. So the initial settings are your basic mix, feedback, general delay stuff. You get a high pass and a low pass for EQing it. You've got your timing, you can sync it. Let's turn that off for now. You've got delay time, and then you've got a couple things that are a little bit unique. So there's 3 things on here that are a little bit unique to the reverse delay: the feedback mode, the overlap, and the trigger threshold. And then on the second screen, you've got, trails is very typical for delay. And then you've got the dynamic settings here. And these are actually settings they've added not only to the reverse delay, but the digital delay as well. So we'll talk about this in a minute. So let's start off by talking about the way the reverse delay works. When I think about how it works, I actually kind of think of it like a reverse looper. So what it's doing is when you set the delay time, when it triggers the delay, it's recording, in this case, 500 milliseconds worth of your playing, then it reverses it and plays it back to you. So it's not like a delay that you would think is just kind of delaying everything you play in the order that you play it. This is reversing blocks at a time. So let's do an example here. So let's put this up a little bit. We'll put it at about, I don't know, here, somewhere around there. So long enough that we can hear it. So if I just play, here's what it sounds like. Let me turn up the mix a little bit so we can hear it really good. We'll get up to about 70 or so. If I play faster, you'll hear the notes will be reversed. So that's because I played enough notes within that 1.2 second block that it reversed the whole block. So if I play something like this, you can hear that I'm playing enough notes in that 1.2 second block that it's reversing the whole phrase. So that's the first thing to understand is the way it's going to be reversing blocks at a time. So keep that in mind. So we've got these reverse blocks getting played out. What the feedback mode is doing is it's changing how those blocks are being fed back into the delay. So right now in a reverse, it's just staying. So if I play the notes down, you can hear it's playing the notes up and just continuing to do that. If I put it on flip, what you'll hear is it'll play it. I'll play notes down, it'll play notes up, but then you'll hear notes down again. That's because the feedback mode is flipping it back and forth. So the overlap, what it's doing is it's controlling, it's also called crossfade, I think, on some other devices. This is where those 1.2 second blocks, it's how much overlap there is as those are being repeated. And it goes from 0 to 100%. You're not really getting 100% of overlap, but what you're doing is you're getting more overlap on the tail end of one and the start of the other so that they blend together better. So if you're, for instance, playing like this, if I turn on 0, you hear how you can hear when that's kicking in. If you turn it up more, you'll get a little bit more overlap. It's subtle, but it just kind of blends together a little bit. So that's the basic of the reverb delay. So, if you wanted to, you turn it down to 0 and then turn the mix up to 100%, this is where you're going to get, let's turn the delay time down. So you're just getting the reverse sound and you're only getting one. So this is kind of, if you want to play around with, playing the solo in reverse, I mean, you really have to figure out your timing because you need to hit the note before you want it to sound. But it's fun to play around with. Let me turn this back to, we're on 70. And the second part of this, and like I said, these are settings that are actually on the new digital delay as well. Now, I'm not going to go in depth on all of these. You can see we're talking about threshold and attacks and release and the knee. These are all compression settings. So what's going on here is it all comes down to, we turn this, where it says duck. This is short for ducking. And ducking at its most basic level is where you kind of restrain the effect while there's more signal from the original signal. And then when the original signal kind of softens up, you hear more of the effect. Think of it this way. If you're playing a line and you're playing your notes, you don't want the delay kind of muddying up what you're playing. But then when you kind of stop the phrase and maybe stop on a note, then the effect kind of swells in and fills in some of that gap. So for example, if we have the ducking off and we're playing, let's test that out. So with the ducking off, and right now we've got some feedback, we've got a good level mix, delay times of about 500 milliseconds. It would sound like this. We turn on the ducking. You'll hear that the effect is kind of being restrained while I'm playing the phrase and I'm being loud. But as soon as I start to like hold a note or the volume of the input signal starts to reduce, you get more effect coming in. So that can be useful when you want the effect to be more ambient, or maybe you're using a reverse delay to interact with a reverb. So let's try that out. So let's go ahead and that block there. So let's turn that one off. And let's combine this reverse delay with a reverb. So let's do it in parallel here. So what I'm going to do, and maybe we'll bring the level down a little bit because we're just going to have a wet path here. So let's go ahead and add in, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a reverb first. So let's take the shimmer one. So if you don't want, and we'll go ahead and turn the mix up 100% because we're doing a wet path. So if you don't know a shimmer reverb, it sounds like this. So really cool. But what you can do is after that, you can add in a reverse delay. And in this case, let's use the dual. And so our dual reverse delay, you can see you've got your mix and your sync timings for each. You've got your feedback mode, flip and reverse, feedback, all the same stuff. You got your overlap, your trigger threshold, and then you've got your ducking and other settings there. And then your high pass and low pass. So it's the same basic thing, except you have two delays. Let's go ahead and we'll turn off the sync. And we'll set delay times to like 800. Oh man, I hate that. And we'll set this one to about 1200. And again, we'll put the mix all the way up. And we'll set the feedback down a little bit. So here, let's turn off the, so it sounds like this. And then if we turn on the reverb, let's try putting the ducking on. So you can hear, using the ducking, again, it's keeping that kind of almost keyboard sound of the shimmer reverb kind of restrained until you want it to come in after you're done playing. And so what I might do here is actually even leave on the original reverb. So there's a little bit of reverb on the dry signal, and let's move this to the, just straight to the out here. Just want the out, so that one's going, the two reverbs aren't going through each other. So maybe the initial delay is a little too much. Set this down to 500. We'll leave this one at maybe just a double. We'll do 1,000. Let's try a little more gain. Maybe we even turn the feedback off. So there's a lot you can do with this reverse delay and play around with it and just add a lot of kind of ambient effects. So if you kind of want to play a guitar line to make it sound like there's a kind of swelling keyboard behind it, that kind of thing. So I'm going to continue to experiment with it and see what I can come up with. So like I said, I would encourage you to experiment with this, see what we can come up with. I'll upload this preset if you want to use this as a starting point. Otherwise, add it to whatever preset maybe you use day to day and just see what you can get. I hope you found this helpful. Thanks for watching.